All right. All this time I thought I was streaming. Had every indication that I was streaming, but no. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Hey, all right. Think I'm finally broadcasting now. So I've got great focus. That's the beta mauve mask that I have on the scope here. And I'm going to go out there and take that off. So we have our plate solve done. This is a globular cluster. This is actually M53. All right, so we got our thermal control running on the camera. That's normal. I'm going to reset my display histogram because we're going to start stacking here momentarily. I've loaded my default profile, which is a great feature in Stellarium or in SharpCap Pro. So now I'm going to go ahead and pick a guide star, start guiding on this. Let PhD go ahead and start doing its deal. I usually like to give it a moment to settle. There we go. All right, let's go ahead and do a live stack of M53. Going to hit clear because what we're going to do now is select our 60-second exposures. And now we just sit back and we wait for that to go. And that should be going. About 3/4 of the way there for our first 60-second exposure. I'm actually going to, there we go. I'm going to clear that. I'm going to turn my light off because I might be interfering. And I'm just making sure audio is coming through. It looks like it is. So I'm going to pause that phone there. Leave that off. All right. So I'm going to arrange some of my windows here. Well, actually, you know what? No, I'm going to leave this up as is. So here is our first 60-second exposure of M53. And where we are pointed in the night sky, you can see we are pretty high up, facing almost due south. The gray line there to the right is what we call the meridian. It kind of splits the sky from the east side to the west side. And oops, is my audio still coming through? You might be picking that up. All right, so now we've got all these other windows going. What I'm going to do is minimize that so that we get much more of a full screen here on our globular cluster. Now look at that. We're actually getting a nice little pickup of some of the subtle color in that star to the left there. But there is our globular cluster M53 coming through. This is so far two stacks or two images that are stacked one on top of the other. Our display histogram's looking pretty good for our color balance. So let me go back here. Yep, everything's looking pretty good as far as our color balance goes. I usually prefer a little bit on the bluer tinge. Others may prefer a little bit more on the red, but I prefer my sky background to have just a bit of blue. And it's that simple. So, realizing I had some difficulties with some of the new changes on the YouTube streams, it's been so long since I've been on here to actually get um, live streams going that I had to do some reset. OBS said I was streaming, but I wasn't streaming. So now I should be. I verified that here. Um, let's go over a couple of things that I was going over before here. So, number one, all right. I got someone local trying to get into the stream there. They're having some technical difficulties, so we wanted to go ahead and get them resolved. So I am running a C8 operating at about a focal ratio of 6.3. Well, about 6.3 to 7, in that range, somewhere close. I am using an Ioptron IQ Pro 45 mount. So you have to go ahead and have the software, of course, to permit your computer to communicate to the mount. In this particular instance, you need to go ahead and have ASCOM downloaded first. Then you go ahead and get whatever proprietary drivers or software um, for your mount, and you can go ahead and get control of it. So that's why this proprietary program is running here. Uh, we are looking at M53. Hello, George. I am using a Celestron C8 with a focal reducer slash corrector, and I have a ZWO 294 MC camera. Wow, you're way over there then. Well, welcome. And hello there, Ed from New York. Welcome. All right. Just helping out a local friend, try to work out some stuff here on this side. For some reason, he's not hearing the audio, but obviously everyone else on the channel is, and so is my feed when I'm over there. All right, let's bring that in a little bit tighter. What do you say? Just get a better view, a little bit of zoom factor going here on M53. There we go. And I've have a lot of fondness for this program that I'm using right now, this Cartes du Ciel. Um, it gave me a problem. It actually gave me the problem for the first time in a long, well, first time ever, right before this stream, and I was like, really? It has to happen right before I want to go ahead and do a live stream. But anyway, it seems to be working out now after I've reinstalled it. So I'm just trying to make some subtle changes here because I don't remember where to turn all these circles off. And that is, unfortunately, that are some of the settings that appear to have been lost. Oh yeah, I've got the 290. I've got that camera as well. I haven't used that too much for the deep sky stuff. I am in Tennessee, broadcasting from Middle Tennessee. All right, we are going to zoom out back to the native resolution there. Nice little subtle color there for that star on the left. Let that stack a couple more times. Actually, let's see what we're at with the, oh, I did that by mistake. There we go. That's resuming. All right, so we've got 11 minutes already of integration on M53. Coming through pretty well. Darken the background just a bit there. Let that come back to being more of a full screen object. All right, howdy, George. Glad you got in with sound too. All right, so I raved yesterday about this program, and funny thing is, I couldn't get it to run this morning or this evening when I was getting ready to broadcast. But I had to reinstall it, and it is obviously running right now, but some of the unique settings that I had in there, unfortunately, have been probably lost. Um, so I was just trying to see. This is the telescope. This shows you where the telescope's pointing, and this is the part of the program uh, that essentially is the interface between the program and the telescope. You will probably, once you get your VX mount or yeah, VX, I can't even remember that model now. Once you get your AMX mount, I think it is. I think that mount now is USB. I don't think they still have serial, but it might be USB. All you'd have to do is go to Celestron or go to ASCOM first and download the ASCOM um, program, and that basically will interface the telescope ASCOM drivers with any programs you're going to be using, George, for your mount. In my particular case, I'm using an Ioptron. Then this is the PHG guider. I don't fudge too much with my mount anymore. This is not optimum guiding by any means. I probably don't have it optimally polar aligned either, but it's good enough for what I do. And so this is the view through that scope, and it's guiding right now. And SharpCap is the program that I use. And for being a C8 at the focal ratio that I'm using, um, I still get fairly respectable stars. So again, it's pretty much okay with me the way I use it. This is definitely the program you'll want to use, I recommend using for electronically assisted observing or astronomy. Yes, I am actually using I think I'm using the LPS D1 filter. It's a light pollution filter. I'm kind of in the yellow zone where I live. So we do have ever-growing light pollution. But yes, I am using a light pollution filter. So, all right, I'm going to save this image exactly as seen. So I'm going to hit save, and now it will save exactly as seen. Snapshots in progress. So now I have saved this exact view on my computer. So I can go to the next object if I want to. So what we'll do here is I will pin this back and I will clear, take off my live stack, drop my exposure down to something really short, such as 8 seconds, and refresh the display histogram. This is the default setting because it's a little too dark. I like to go ahead and at least see a little bit. So here's the normal setting. So then I go back to Cartes du Ciel, the star chart program. And basically now what we can do is just look for another object to look for. Um, we're getting real close to the meridian over here, so we can't get too close. But why don't we go over to M87, which is a galaxy. It's an elliptical galaxy. Oh, and yes, stop the guiding before you hit your go to. Then we're going to go to Salute M87. I will go back to my SharpCap program. And what we're going to do here is we're going to let it plate solve. It uses a local program. That local program I got on my local computer is astrometry.net local solver, it's called. And once you install it, you start it, and it always runs. And then you configure this program to basically use that program to plate solve. It's very easy. Click the plate solve option here. You'll see that it's reading this 8-second exposure. The next 8-second exposure, it found 31 sources, which is good. Now it's going to try to plate solve, and it should center up M87 for us exactly in the field of view. So this is where I was pointed, and now I'm pointed directly at M87. That is what's called plate solving. And as you can see, there's M87 right in the middle of the screen. Um, George, I don't really know what Bortle value I would be. Um, I'm not that far from a city. I would say I'm in like a suburban-ish type of sky setting. My view to the east is okay. The north is a mess with light pollution. Uh, West is okay, but getting worse. And the south is decent. Okay, we have to go through the workflow again. We have selected the object. We went to it. We plate solved. Once we plate solve, I'm going to start my guiding back up. Click that option to auto select a star and then click the green target, and that's going to start guiding. I usually let it start to settle here like for about 5 seconds or so. Then what I like to do is I go up here to name my target. So I'm going to be looking at M87. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go to live stack. We're going to reset our display histogram to flat, and we are going to set our exposure to what we want. I usually do pretty consistently almost 60 seconds all the time. Yes, I go longer sometimes, and yes, I go shorter sometimes, but 60 seconds is about where I like to go because the objects that I like are galaxies and things that are far away. So 60 seconds usually at a minimal is what you're going to want to do. I've reset the live stack just so in case it stacked anything from that previous 8-second exposure. And I'm just going to let it ride right here. It's going to give me the countdown here to the times the seconds that I have left. Excuse me, on the object. And we will have M87 up in no time. Now, M87 is an elliptical galaxy. And it has that jet, the black hole in the center of it, and that jet we might be able to pick up. Magnitude 9.6, thereabouts. And so we are going to go ahead and see if we can get this elliptical galaxy with the black hole jet in the field of view here. All right, so we got one frame ignored. So let's see why. All right. So for our frame tolerance here, my guiding was a little bit bad, it said, so it didn't stack that frame. So we're going to hope that that was just a bounce or an anomaly here. I have my threshold pretty low. You can set your threshold up higher to have a higher tolerance for star movement, if you will. But we're going to give that a moment because it was 6.61 and my highest value is All right, so what I'm going to do, because I'm going to get a few of these, I'm going to increase it just a tad. It might be due to seeing, who knows. So it ignored the last 2 frames. So it didn't stack anything because the maximum movement was over the threshold that I have set. So it could have been this bounce here. Again, with guiding, optimally you'll want to get a nice as flat line as possible. As you can see, mine looks like a heart monitor, but it works for me most of the time. All right, we'll wait till this gets stacked up here. We'll see what we got. There we go. Okay. So we do have, so now I can minimize this a bit and we can get into M87. Now there's a number of other galaxies in this field of view here. In fact, if we wanted to see nice little feature that I found with this Cartes du Ciel program is the ability to go ahead and get the object list in the field of view that you're seeing. So every one of these objects in this field of view, actually I think it might even be that larger field of view, and if so, I need to correct that a little bit, will get listed out to this text file on the left-hand side. So it's really kind of nice to go ahead and have that, um, just to help identify, all the different objects that you might be able to see. So let's go back to our view here. So I mean, there's a galaxy over here, another galaxy, another galaxy, another galaxy, another galaxy, and of course M87 in the middle. Let's go ahead and zoom in on this a little bit, see if we can pick up that jet. Now it's going to be hard to see, but right there, little kind of pimple-ish that you're seeing here, that's actually the black hole jet that we're picking up from the elliptical galaxy M87. So let that continue to stack and get some better. So we've got two stacks. Very good. So usually with stacking, I like to see about, I don't usually go over 10 to be honest. 5 is decent. Of course, the more you stack, the more the overall image will improve. Like I think I see another galaxy here, which maybe I didn't point out before. Now these other galaxies in the field of view, depending upon what exactly we're seeing here. Let's go to that. Let's go to view, our object list. So it's a little bit smaller list here. And let's see. So, we got galaxies in the field of view here that might be as dim as 16.9 magnitude. Our M87 is 11, or I'm sorry, 9.6. And then our NGC 4486A, which is right here, is at magnitude 11, 11.2. So I always like to use that to try to identify some of the objects because that's kind of what I like to try to nail down. That might be that one particular galaxy. And that one's interesting because look at that. It's almost got either a star, probably in the outer portion of that galaxy. Man, it might even be a supernova in that galaxy. Who knows? Or it could be just a star that's in our line of sight to that. Yeah, here's our jet. It's coming out a little bit more pronounced. Hopefully that's coming out okay through the channel. Up, George. Yep, George sees it, so that's good. Let's see if we can make some adjustments maybe to see if we can bring that jet out just a little bit better. Maybe not as blown out. Kind of tough to see when we don't have it like that. Let's zoom back in. I don't know, maybe a little bit of an improvement there, but you can kind of see how it seems to be extending out just a little bit further from the elliptical core. See that right here. think we got what, 8? I think we got 8 minutes on this. 6 minutes. So that's 6 stacks. So the other nice feature of this program is that you can go ahead and have all your objects listed. Let me do that one more time. So I'm going to clear that observing list. Let me show you what we did here. So what we're doing is we're getting a field of view set up here. And we are saying, okay, show me the objects in this field of view that I'm seeing. Program generates this whole list. So these are all of the objects that are in this entire field of view that we're seeing. Now, if you save this, it saves it as what's called a CSV file. And I actually like to do it like this, M87 underscore field of view. Because when I go to save my image here, if I was curious to know what other objects were in the field of view, I can go right back to that CSV file that was just generated, and I can go back and see all these particulars for the objects in the field of view. Now I can also add these objects to an observing list. Doing that keeps a complete list of the objects that we have been seeing tonight. And you can continue to add to this list for the different objects that you're going to view this evening. So all of that's pretty cool in my opinion. All right, so let's go back to our view. There's our jet. Let's zoom back out to its normal resolution, and I'll leave that up. That is a really interesting little galaxy though over there on the lower left. I like that. Being that this is an electronically assisted astronomy, I actually prefer electronically assisted observing because I'm observing. I don't really care for the pretty picture. I do care for the pretty picture, but astrophotographers spend a lot more time on not only exposures, but also what's called the processing of those images. Myself, I just want to go ahead and log the objects in this view so that I kind of keep a tab of the different objects that I've been able to observe. And that's why I like to just call it electronically assisted observing, because I consider it to be true observing and not just looking to save the pretty picture aspect. There's our M87 jet. All right, so while we're doing that here, oh, one other very nice little point I'll point out here. Once we save the objects that we generated in that object list to an observing list, it changes the color to green. That's a pretty nice feature because that way you'll know all the different objects that you have observed in your sessions. All right, I think I'm going to scoot on over here to M86 and M84 after we are done here with this one. Oh, we are already actually past the meridian. So I might just keep it on this side of the meridian and look for other objects on this side. Simply for the fact that I don't necessarily want to go ahead and do the whole flip. Oh, we got another globular coming up here, M5. Number of globulars rising. All of these galaxies, however, are just packed into Leo and Virgo, comma parentheses here. All right, let's go back to our view. Let's see how many we got stacked so far. So let's go back to our auto. There's M87, elliptical galaxy with the M87, or M87 elliptical galaxy with the black hole jet. All right, so we are going to save this view. Let me actually make one little tweak here. Yeah, too many screens to keep an eye on. The chat, the YouTube streaming screen, the program I'm using here, SharpCap. Yeah, too many things going on. I need a third monitor. All right, let's go ahead and hit save exactly as seen here. Great. So again, with the workflow, I saved it. So now I can clear it. I'm going to turn off live stack. I'm going to drop my exposure down to 8 seconds. I'm going to increase my display histogram so that I can see things. I'm going to then stop my tracking, or stop my guiding rather, and I'll go back to my planetarium program here, and we'll go looking for another set of objects to kind of look at. This looks like an interesting kind of edge-on galaxy, I think. I don't recall seeing it. I'm going to track that one down. So right click here, slew to NGC 4866. And we'll see what we can see with NGC 4866. There it is right here smack in the middle. So we didn't even have to plate solve. It wasn't too far away. I like those. So I'm going to automatically select a guide star in the field of view. Then I'm going to just simply hit guiding. I'll let the PhD guiding program start up and get kind of what we call settled before I start back to the other program to start capturing. Okay, it looks like it's settling. So I'll go back to this NGC program, or the this program here. It's 4866. So I'll go back to my SharpCap. I'm going to name it NGC 4866 so that I don't forget that. Now we're going to get ready to do our longer exposures. So I reset the display histogram here, and I increase our regular exposure to 60 seconds, and now I switch to live stack. I clear whatever might have been previously in there just so that we're starting fresh, and then we wait patiently to have our image pop up here in 60 seconds, and then continue to build on top of that. I'm going to move this program over because I want to try to get it back to the settings that I had previously before I unfortunately had to reinstall the program. Looks like this is going to be a pretty empty field of view, but it should be a pretty interesting galaxy nonetheless. Almost coming up on our exposure. Yeah, look at that guy. So it's a very flat galaxy with another interesting star here, either in our field line of sight or what. It's a possibility. It's definitely a possibility that that is a supernova associated with that galaxy. I doubt it, but it is possible. I have been doing a live stream before back in 2014. The supernova that it went off in M82. We were actually doing a live stream on Sunday night. For those of you that have been keeping up with live streams before, it was with Fraser Kane, and he was doing the virtual star parties. And that night, we actually had M82 with the supernova, but none of us caught it live in the view at that time on a Sunday night. You recall uh, it was actually discovered Tuesday. Six. I'm actually looking up that right now. Um, Blob, trying to see if there is a supernova referenced for it. No, it is not a supernova. It is a true star in the line of sight to that object. So I've just verified that with some pictures that I called up. So pretty cool. Um, Galaxy with a just happen to have a star there in our line of sight with it, and a rather noticeably bluish white star as well. So this galaxy itself was an NGC, New General Catalog, and it's actually almost magnitude 12. Now I'm looking to see if there's any other objects. Um, there's an odd hint of an object here that I kind of see, and there's also definitely a galaxy over here on the lower right. That one I'm betting is probably NGC 4935, magnitude 13.9. I think that's that one over here. Interesting though is this object right here. Kind of has almost a ring, kind of a double nucleus type of pattern to it, but I don't have it since the reinstall of my program. I don't think I have anything that goes that deep. All right, so forgive me, I got to look on something else here real quick. It's bugging me. I'm trying to figure out this field of view stuff. That ain't it. That ain't it. I cannot for the life of me find that setting right now. It's kind of driving me nuts. All right, thanks, George. Stay safe down there in Peru. Thanks for stopping by the way. Sorry, I have so many different windows. If I missed you, I apologize. All right, I'm going to save this one, I think, here. We'll wait a little bit more. We got a couple more stacks here before we want to move on. There we go. Uh, labels? No. Aha, I think I found it. All right, got rid of most of those. If you right click, you have to go to Finder Circle and you can remove the default ones in here and then also uncheck any other ones that you also wanted there. And I have to go in and create my own here. A little bit later is another step to set up the program, but I'll do that at a later time. All right, there we go. We got 10. Let's do a file save exactly a scene for this NGC 4866, which is a pretty um, almost edge-on galaxy. Let's clear our view, turn off our live stack, drop our exposure down to about 8 seconds. Change that. We will turn off our guiding. So we anticipate going to a new object. So I'm going to look for our next object on our list here, or kind of pick one. Let's go to a beautiful globular cluster. Let's go to M5. So M5 globular cluster coming up next right here at the eyepiece. too far away, but see what we get. Now, I'm not seeing it in this view, so we are definitely going to go ahead and have to do a, oh, there it is. All right, we're not too far off, but I'm going to plate solve this. I'm going to click this little plate solve option here within the SharpCap program. And what we should see it do here is get some source, determine some source. 42 sources found, so it saw some stars here, which is good. Now it's going to compare it to plate solve it, and we should get M5 snapped to the middle here. We were off about 0.37 degrees with our go-tos. And there we are. So I know this one's going to be M5. So I'm going to name it that. There it is, just on the outskirts of our field of view here for our finder, or our guide scope actually, 80 millimeter. We're going to have it auto choose a star. We're going to go ahead and start our guiding. We're going to let it kind of settle again. A few seconds. That's probably good enough. All right, we're going to reset that view. And we're going to drop it to our 60-second exposure. And we're going to turn on our live stacking. Finally, I'm going to clear any previous live stacks that might kind of still be lingering there. Yeah, M5 is a really nice one though. Another really cool globular cluster that I believe is up is also M3, and I don't recall if it was either Astronomy Magazine, Astronomy.com, I think, or maybe it was Sky and Telescope. I think it was Sky and Telescope that had a very interesting article on M3 and the variable star in M3. And that variable star, I took a couple of images over of that globular cluster over the span of 4 nights. Meaning one night I took it, and then it was about another 3 or 4 nights later. Um, I was able to image it again, and lo and behold, you can track down that variable star and you can see the variance in brightness in that short period of time. It's a very short period of um, variable star, and that was so cool to go ahead and be able to see that. So there's M5, really, really pretty globular. Definitely one of the favorites to go to. So let's see, it's magnitude 7.34. Just hoping that it doesn't unfortunately have its classification. Globular clusters have a particular classification noting their compactness and centralization of a core, or apparent centralization of a core. This one does not have, this program does not list that, unfortunately, for M5. Let's say it's probably like a mid-range. Yeah, that's pretty. I like the smaller objects with this particular setup. I'm not big on wide field nebulous regions. Um, I like smaller types of objects like these globulars and galaxies, planetary nebula, etc. All right, so that's a good view here. We'll let that stack. Picking up some nice, different, subtle, but noticeable star color variations in there. Oh yeah, these objects, you can go outside with a pair of binoculars and see M5. Of course, not like this, but you can spot it with a pair of 7.5 by 50s in a dark enough sky. What's always interesting about globular clusters is to go ahead and really look into the around the core and just I like to pick out not only the bluish stars but also any unique patterns. This has kind of a an arc of stars picking up here, which is kind of pretty. That kind of stands out to me. All right, we'll let that stack. It's probably got what? Let's see here. 0, 3 stacks so far. One actually has been ignored. So that's interesting. Then I'm getting one that was way out of whack. Not exactly sure what's going on with that tonight. Whew, yeah, you can see something jiggled, maybe a gust of wind. Not sure. The scope is in a small 4 foot high kind of walled enclosure that the roof is rolled off on. So if we do get some wind, it can catch the dew shield uh, on the scope and cause some of that. All right, yep, M5 globular cluster, very good. That's coming up, coming out nicely. Just checking out what other objects are in the field of view here. I can look for M3. I don't know why it's not coming up in my chart. Oh, it was way higher. Yeah, M3 is almost directly, it looks like, overhead right now, practically for where I'm at. Getting close to that meridian as well. And actually, M13 is rising up right now, uh, Blob. So we can go to M13 here right after this. Yeah, and that was a satellite that zipped through there, as you can see. Be prepared for a lot more of those with the beauty of, yeah. I'm not a big fan of the Skylink stuff. I would say probably with the different objects that I like to view every night, I will probably have 2 objects that I can see satellites in, just from the small field of view that I have and the randomness of the objects that I view. Ring Nebula's rising, but it's pretty low. I don't think I'm gonna be up that long. It's almost 11 here, and right now it is, let's see, will it tell me how high it is? Yeah, it's only 21 degrees above my horizon now, so I don't even think I'd be able to see it with the trees. So I don't think I'd be able to get M57 tonight. But I think what we'll do will probably be wrapping. So right after this is M5 here. We will probably scoot on over to M13. And I am probably will end the broadcast for this evening on that. Oh, the double double. Yes, very fond of the good old double double. I remember tracking that down with my 6-inch f8 Newtonian telescope. It was I was up all night at the Tennessee Spring Star Party quite a few years ago, and I had just picked up the Orion in telescope 6-inch f8 Dob, and I had an absolute blast with that telescope. But that was a really cool object to see with that for the first time. And I thought the go-to was I went out with the push-to. Really is with that telescope. It's not a go-to; it's a push-to. Um, I had a, I didn't think that that object was what it was showing, what it was supposed to be. I thought the go-to was, or I thought the push-to was inaccurate. And then I was like, wait a second. Cranked up the magnification a little bit more, and then boom, there they were. That was really cool. That kind of got me hooked on double stars. Unfortunately, I just don't do visual nearly as much as I used to. But when I do, it's going to be double stars, planetary and double stars. All right, so what do we got here? We got 9 stacked so far on the beautiful globular cluster M5, even though we have a satellite zipping through there. Let's go up to our live stack. Okay, so I'm going to save our view of M5 here. Save exactly as seen. That way we get exactly this view saved. All right, so now we can turn off live stack, drop my exposure to about 8 seconds, that up, turn my guiding off. Whew. I don't know what's causing the scope to bounce. Let's go over to M13. There's M13. I think that's in the upper left there. Yep. All right. So we'll just do a plate solve. We could use the pad to move the telescope, but I'm just going to hit the plate solve. What a great option to have. 0.30, zero point 0.3 degrees off, or point, yeah, 0.3 degrees off. Yeah, M5 had some pretty colors with it. And here's our great M13 globular cluster. So that should be settled in now. Clear that. I'm going to have it auto pick the star. This is the PhD guiding program, again, free. We'll start guiding. We'll let that settle. Make sure I get my name right for my object so that when I do save the image, it's named correctly. There's that little galaxy too up here in the upper right in the same field of view as M13. Don't know what NGC galaxy it is, but I'll have that for you in a second. 6207, it looks like that's going to be. NGC 6207. All right, let's go to our live stack. Let's go to our clear. Reset that view here. All right, gang. One more time, we'll clear that since I think that's stacked 8 seconds because I did not change it to 60-second exposure. Clear that one more final time. All right, gang, the great Hercules globular cluster coming up next here at the eyepiece. Countdown of our exposures there on the lower right. Got about 40 seconds left. This is definitely a binocular object 2 that you can spot. There's actually 2 globular clusters in Hercules, which is the constellation that this particular globular cluster is at. The other one's M92. Kind of a stark difference between M13 and M92. M92 is got a bit tighter core, actually, much more condensed than M13. Smaller, more condensed. But it actually makes it easier to find because it does have such a condensed core, even with binoculars. And there's M13. I like that nice reddish star up here too. So we got some nice colors. Got some nice colors coming in here. Nice sprinkling of some blue or white stars too around M13. These are a blast to also view visually. You can definitely go ahead, crank up the power and dig into the core, if you will, on some of these globular clusters. The larger the telescope, obviously, the better resolve you're going to have, the easier it is to pick up um, some of the stars around the core as well. This object was actually the first object that I turned my Celestron Ultima 8 to way back in 1995. Oh my, no, it wasn't earlier than that. It was about 93 and 94. Yep, 60 millimeter refractor. Absolutely. That'll see him. The double double. Ooh, it is actually getting a little chilly out here. Turn my heat on. Oh, let's just do a little bit of a zoom in here with M13. Whoa, a little bit too much. Let me back that off just a bit here. Wow, still quite. There we go. Yeah, George, I got the door to the my control room, if you will, open to where the scope is. So I didn't close it. I got the dogs barking and everything in the background. Hope that's not coming through too loud. But yeah, I do have a heater though right next to me, so I just turned that on. The V shaped in the right side of the globular. Well, let's see. Sometimes let's back out a bit. Well, of course, the right side is it could be flipped in my particular view. But isn't this doesn't M13 have the propeller in it? I think they call it the propeller. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's kind of an X here, but not sure about V. I don't know. Or is it this right here? This I don't think it's dust. It's just kind of a natural alignment of the stars there that kind of breaks up the V. Is that what you're talking about? Well, see, the good thing, George, is when you get your gear, it'll be a little bit warmer. But then, of course, we'll be complaining it's too warm. There's always such interesting shapes, though, to pick up in the globulars. That's true. Yeah, we'd be dealing with the bugs. So we got this natural kind of shape here going on. That kind of looks like a V to me. And we've got a little bit of a break here too that looks like an upside down V. Let's see where, no, it's not pre-processing. Ah, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to flip it any. I don't want to mess that up. I don't do that too often here. But yeah, let's back it off to our native resolution. Oh, we got another little galaxy coming up right here too. Actually, let me zoom in just a little bit. Here's that little galaxy right over here. All right, good night, George. Giving you a tease of things you got to come here. Just check my color balance real quick. Yeah, color, I'm a little bit on the blue. Ooh, too much, too much, too much. All right, let's drop that down a little bit. There we go. Darken the background just a hint more. Propeller top left, huh? All right, right around here. Yep, I kind of see it. Yeah. All right, well, we got 10 stacked on M13 already. Pretty view. All right, I am going to save this image exactly as seen. All right, so this is going to be this will be the last object for tonight, gang. I think I'm going to wrap it up. It's 11 p.m. Central Time for me here. I've got a couple other things I need to do that are not going to be on the broadcast. But I do want to I do want to say, throw it out there for everybody that if you're not a fan of the Vanderbilt Dyer Observatory webpage, go ahead and subscribe to them because they have a virtual astronomy night coming up. I believe it's May 22nd. And weather permitting, I hope to be broadcasting on with the rest of the gang there as well. They got a lot of great scopes, a lot of great folks, and a lot of information that they give on those broadcasts. They're a lot of fun and very informative. So if you haven't checked them out yet, by all means, head on over to that website, subscribe to their channel. That way you can get alerts for when the next virtual star party is on their page as well. So thanks everybody for hanging out with me and have a rest of a good night and clear skies. Later, Bob. Thanks for hanging out with us. Ed, if you're still on too, have a good one. Thanks for hanging out with me. Good night, everybody.